widely used across India by both parents and professionals. The presentations today will be on a few manuals that we have developed to help families, professionals, and other stakeholders in the lives of children with developmental delays understand parallel talk, independent task completion, school transition, and teaching basic gestures. A few reminders before we begin. All participant mics will be muted during presentations and will be unmuted only during the question answer round. Also, kindly mute your videos for better audio quality. We will be taking up questions at the end of all the presentations today. Moving Deepa Bhatt Nair giving us an insight into each of these manuals. An active member of the Comdeal family, Ms. Deepa Bhatt Nair is a speech-language pathologist with 25 years of experience in the field. She is a certified master trainer from the Comdeal Trust and heads DBN Comdeal, an affiliate unit of the Comdeal Trust in Mumbai. This unit is one of Comdeal's oldest units and was established in 2003. She's also held post as affiliations coordinator for the Comdeal Trust from 2013 to 2019. It is indeed my pleasure to call upon Ms. Deepa to take over this presentation. It feels wonderful to have you with us today, Deepa.
Thanks, Ria. Just get my screen organized and then get started. So like Ria mentioned, I'm here this afternoon to talk about 4 of the communicates that were developed by myself and my team at DBN Comdeal Mumbai. So the Parallel Talk Manual, the School Transition Manual, Independent Activity Completion, and the Gestures Manual. As with every communicate, each one of these was an answer that was felt to the need on the ground. Was released in 2008, and then we had a second edition in 2016. Parallel talk is not very new to many therapists. Many of us use it to facilitate language. But Dr. Karanth used it very extensively with children with autism. And what she found was that when this technique was used with these children, they seemed to get calmer, they seemed to get better connected, and overall, the response to therapy was much better. And it was with these insights that she asked us to put together this manual so that more people could use it and be benefited from it. Just a second. So, who should be using this manual? Parents of children who are not speaking at all or speaking in single words, phrases, or short sentences. Parents of children who are showing challenging behaviors such as screaming, hitting, throwing things, etc. Parents of children who are anxious, children who are anxious about this, and professionals who wish to develop this skill in using it as a technique for children with autism and other developmental disorders. What are the contents of this manual? To begin with, what is parallel talk and where do we use it? Parallel talk is a technique that helps to facilitate language. It involves speaking on the child's behalf so as to keep a two-way communication going. For example, let's say the child is not speaking at all, but begins to tug or pull up his father's trousers as the father is walking towards the door. So now the father may say, Daddy, I want to go out with you. Take me out for a ride. I know. So the father now replies saying, I know you want to go for a ride, but now I'm in a hurry. I'm going to the office. Why don't I take you in the evening? So now the child is still not speaking, but from the child's actions, the father understands that the child is not happy about it. No, Daddy, I want to go right now. Fine, I will take you for one ride, a quick one, and then I will leave you at home. You must say bye to me nicely. So this entire dialogue is happening all on the father's behalf. I mean, all by the father. The child is not really saying anything at all. The child is being spoken for. The father is speaking for the child. So here you can see that immediately the child will begin to calm down because the child feels understood. So this is in a nutshell what parallel talk is. Where can we use it? So we can use it for expressing the child's needs. So let's say the child is looking at water. The parent may say, I'm thirsty, give me some water. Or expressing feelings. This is something that often gets overlooked. But feelings are experiences that children have very early in life, and they need the words for them. They need to know that their feelings are being understood by others. So I'm feeling excited. Look, Papa, there is a balloon there. Look, Mama, I can see a car, red car going zoom, zoom. So this is something again that the parent is saying on behalf of the child. You may even use it in anxiety provoking situations. So let us say that the child has to go to the barber. So as you are approaching the barber's shop, you find that the child is getting extremely restless. Mama, I don't want to go for a haircut. I hate haircuts. Keep me at home. So this is the way in which the mother may start speaking on the child's behalf so that the child feels understood. The next section in this manual is the frequently asked questions. So when you start using this technique, you will end up with lots of questions. Some of you may wonder, should we be speaking in full sentences? Yes. Speak at the level at which another child of that age would be speaking. How often should we do it? Do it as often as you can. In fact, Dr. Karan says you must talk to the child until your jaw begins to drop. So, children with autism require a lot of language inputs. They need to be felt, heard, and understood. So do it as much as you can. Can I use it along with other techniques? Yes, you can. Do I use parallel talk even if my child is not saying any words at all? Yes. It has been our experience that children do understand a lot and they do respond very well. So you must use parallel talk even if your child is completely non-verbal. So the manual has many such questions that are answered, and an answer to the difficulties that you may face. These questions have been put together based on the years of experience that we had working with parents of children with autism. Then we have a section on success stories. This section was put together because we realized the parents identify best when they hear from other parents. So we put together experiences that have been contributed by parents who have used these techniques, this technique successfully. So there is an example of little Ashray who would not, share his Diwali gifts. There is a custom in his family of giving gifts every Diwali. He did not want to part with any of them. So the book talks about how the parent used parallel talk, and that Diwali Ashray distributed the gifts without any problem at all. Similarly, how it can be used to expand language. That is something that we are all pretty familiar with, so I won't go into details. Then there is an example of a boy who refused to go on stage along with his mother. The mother and the child were to participate in a fashion show that was being held in their building. The child was very anxious. So what did the mother say? How did she go about using parallel talk to get the child to participate on stage with her? So these are some of the experiences that have been shared by parents in this manual. In case you want to pick up your own copy, you can pick it up on our website. There. So that was, it's a little booklet, but a pretty powerful one in terms of getting you going with use of parallel talk with your children. The next one that I want to talk to you about is Bridging the Gap, which was developed in 2019. As you know, the thrust of the ComDeal program is to optimize the child's potential to join mainstream school. Now, what happens is in therapy, the child is in a fairly protected environment. There are lesser number of children. We are functioning at the child's level so that the child doesn't get frustrated. And from this environment, the child now has to go into a classroom with maybe 25, 30 children, fairly noisy levels, and he's expected to function with all other children in that group. So we need a bridge, something that will help us to prepare the child who has attained age-appropriate levels of their functioning maybe, but still requires some support in order to be able to function in the classroom. So this is where this manual comes in. It is called Bridging the Gap, a school transition manual. So parents of children who are preparing their child to transition from the therapy center into the regular schools definitely will benefit from this booklet. The others are parents of children experiencing difficulties in settling down in classrooms. Sometimes we find that the child has entered the classroom and continues to stand there with the bag and the bottle, whereas all the other children have hung their bags in the proper place, have sat down in their positions. Some other times, the entire classroom has moved to music, but this child is still sitting all by himself. So these are some of the common difficulties that children might face in the classroom. Some children will communicate very well at home. So they'll be saying everything conducted at home and at the therapy center, but in the school they are totally mum. In fact, many a times parents find it very difficult to understand what is happening. So parents of such children will also benefit from the techniques that have been discussed in this booklet. Then parents of children who are not participating in classroom activities, or parents of children who are showing challenging behaviors such as screaming or yelling or even singing in the classroom. So what are the contents of this booklet? To begin with, like I said, this booklet was put together. It was an amalgamation of the years of experience that the COMDEAL had in putting children back into the regular schools. So we start with what we call tricks of the trade. What are the little things that you can do to make sure that your child has a smooth transition into the regular school? Sometimes sensory issues that were relatively stable in over a couple of months or even a year may resurface when the child is put into an anxiety provoking situation such as the classroom. Or some sensory issues may continue, may persist even when many other issues have now been taken care of. So it is a good idea to warn the teacher about this and discuss it with her well in advance. Sometimes children don't like messy activities. So this is again something that the teacher needs to know so that she can support the child adequately. Some children have difficulties with transitions. So if the teacher is just saying verbally, everybody move to the music class, maybe the child is not getting it. Maybe the teacher needs to show a little card which says move to the music class. So this is where visual supports will also be required. Sometimes therapists and parents feel, oh, this child does not require visual supports at all. We used these supports with him 6 months ago. Now he's outgrown them. But it is important to understand that many a times children require these supports. What kind of language should you be using in the classroom? How should you be helping the child, to communicate? So in order to prevent a dip in the expressive language, we may practice a little bit extra the language of the classroom. So you may have, again, I think it was in the last session that, the last session that Tanushree spoke about the visual kit. So the visual kit, which probably went into storage sometime back, will have to come out again when you place the child in the classroom. Some of the aids that were being used earlier, you may have to use again. So the booklet talks about these things, and which are the ones that will be useful to the child is also mentioned here. One other thing that I would like to mention is ensuring basic needs are met. So make sure that the child goes on a full stomach, his toileting needs, his water requirement is met, he's had a full night's sleep. Sometimes when children are put in new circumstances such as a classroom, they may begin to get more restless, not have a full night's sleep. There are some children who may not sleep well for 2 to 3 days at a stretch. In such a case, you might want to consider giving the child a break and allow him to sleep at home on a particular day rather than sending a very sleepy child to school. So these are little things that we have understood from our experiences with children that have been shared in this booklet to help you get going. Constipation is another issue that you may want to be aware of and address, because these are very basic needs. If not addressed, can cause a lot of restlessness and sometimes even unruly behaviors in the classroom. So the second part of this booklet is a formatted section where you can put together your own booklet for your child, which is specific to the child in terms of explaining what the day is going to go like, what is the structure of the school day, and how it will proceed, what are the kind of responses that are expected, how are other people in the child's environment going to behave. So looking at these visuals beforehand, practicing with them in the therapy session and at home will ensure better transitions into the classroom. So these are some of the from one of our early prototypes that I'm sharing with you here. So we have a little, this is something that you will prepare at home for the child. So what is the school? What you can either draw or you can stick photographs. This is my school. My school's name is Bal Vikas. I go to school in a bus. I stand in line to get into the bus. Teacher may ask me questions. If I know the answer, I can raise my hand up. When I'm playing with other children, these are some of the things I can say. Can I play with you? Let's play with blocks. I need to speak to my friends nicely. I need to interact with them. So this is the format for preparing a school transition booklet. Here what we've done is we've given space for either sticking real life photographs. Some schools give permission to parents to click pictures, in which case that can be done. Otherwise, you can draw your own line drawings or download pictures online and use them here. So this is the second part of the school transition booklet that can be a very handy tool by preparing our children for the transitions. So my teacher will be waiting for me in the classroom. I can say good morning or hello to my teacher when I see her. So here you will stick a picture of the child, you'll stick a photograph of the teacher, put a speech bubble in and saying good morning teacher. So in case you want to pick up your own copy, you will find it on the communicates.com website. The next booklet that I'm going to talk to you about is the Independent Activity Completion, which was put together in 2017. So sometimes we hear parents saying, I don't get a minute's break, madam. The entire day my child is with me. He doesn't let me go even for 1 second. I'm not able to do anything on my own at all. So maybe we need to think of developing the child's abilities to complete activities independently. By independent activity completion, we mean the child's ability to engage in tasks without constant adult support and supervision. So who should be using this manual? So if the child is unable to complete tasks, whether they could even be very simple ones by himself and requires your constant presence. If the child is easily distracted and needs help to keep his attention sustained on the activity. If he cannot play even simple games by himself, or if functioning in the classroom by himself is difficult and requires constant reminder from the teachers to stay on task and complete what is given to him. All such children will benefit from specific work to improve their ability to complete tasks independently. So what does the booklet contain? So obviously we begin with what is independent activity completion. Like I mentioned, it is the ability to complete tasks without constant adult prodding and help and engagement. Why is this important? So number one, if you want the child to be able to function, let me just go back a little bit to say that children with autism, any degree of difficulty that they have, will benefit from this activity. It is not only children who are going into the classroom, but even if you are working on functional skills, this is an important functional skill that the child needs to have. Sometimes the mother will say, the child he knows everything, but I have to be with him, then only he demonstrates. In which case that knowledge is incomplete. the child needs to be able to generalize it completely. So what are some of the reasons why children are not able to complete activities independently? So one could be attention. The child who is 3 years of age should be able to sustain attention on a single activity for at least 8 to 10 minutes. Now, if the child is not able to do that, sometimes parents say, "Oh, madam, he gets so bored with any toy that I give him. He requires new toys every time." So it may not be boredom; it could be a difficulty in sustaining attention that the child is experiencing. So attention could be one of the issues. The other could be an issue with motor planning, not being able to transition from one activity into another. Again, under attention, it could be sustaining attention as opposed to focusing attention alone. So these are one more reason could be prompt dependency. The child requires physical prompts or requires semantic or visual cues in order to complete the task. Many a times the child had required this earlier but is now able to do it, but has got so dependent on the prompts that continues to require these prompts which have not been faded away. The booklet talks about some of these issues and goes into length about what can be done in such instances. Then you need to determine what is the current baseline at which the child is functioning. Let us say, take the example of attention. Let's say the child in 20 minutes time or let's say in the time frame of 10 minutes, the child is able to complete 20 activities. To put it a little differently, the child requires 20 activities in order to sit for 10 minutes. That means approximately the child is able to sustain attention for about 2 minutes. So the child is 3 years of age. This attention level is definitely not adequate at all. So we need to look at increasing the child's ability to sustain. So there are examples given on how to determine the current functioning level of the child and therefore then look at how to set the next goal for the child. This is followed by lesson plans for independent activity completion. So if it is an issue of attention, how are you going to do it? If it is an issue with prompts, how are you going to fade out the prompts? What are you going to do? Something that I would like to point out here, which is particularly relevant in these COVID times, is that the appendix section has a list of activities that you can carry out, not only in the tabletop, but also around the house. So it could be something on the tabletop, maybe completing puzzles or a coloring activity. Around the house, it could be putting pegs on the clothes, taking the clothes off a clothesline, various kind of activities which have been categorized depending on the different levels at which the child may be performing. So that is what the lesson plan section looks like. We have a section for troubleshooting. So if it is underdeveloped or poor attention skills, what are some of the features that you could find? Motor challenges, what are some of the features that you could find? Transition issues. And then you have the last part where we talk about activities. And like I mentioned, it is as per the level of the child that you will have different kinds of activities categorized in the booklet. So you can pick up your own at communicates.com. The last booklet that I want to talk to you about today is Teaching Basic Gestures to Children with Autism. This was put together in 2017. So now, teaching gestures is not something that is very new. But when it comes to autism, there are certain specific challenges which have been addressed in this booklet. When we talk about, when we spoke about the communication manual, we spoke about how it is so important to look at a total communication for the child. We need to get the child going in terms of communication. We need to develop the child's ability to communicate in some manner or the other as quickly as possible so that the frustration levels of our children can reduce. They understand a lot more than what they can say, and that is where their ability to let us know what they are thinking and feeling becomes very important. At the same time, some of them have comprehension issues wherein gestures can be used to give a total communication support to the child. So these are the manual consists of an introduction followed by a general section on why we wanted to work on gestures and what were the kind of challenges. Some of you may wonder, when we have Indian Sign Language, what is the need for a gestures manual? So with autism, what happens is many of them have motor challenges, because of which standardized gestures are not, standardized signs cannot be used with these children. And ability of that particular child. Let me share with you something that on the ground learning that we had with some of our children. Very early days in the ComDeal program, we would work with small groups of children. And we would, there would be a communication board which would be lying there, and we would be carrying out activities. We would be very happy to learn that, to realize that our children have now learned to sit in small groups, and some kind of language therapy would be going on. Suddenly, a child who was very well settled in the classroom would begin to get restless, might even pinch the therapist or hit the therapist or hit somebody sitting close to him. Now, at that time, we were at a loss to understand what was happening. Slowly, we began to realize that the child had toileting needs which the child was not able to express. The occupational therapist in the team had been working on toilet control, which the child had begun to achieve. And now the child understands that he should not be relieving himself in the classroom. But the child has no way of letting the therapist know that this is what is my need at the moment. I need a break from the class. This is where, along with the communication pictures, we felt the need for gestures, because the pictures may not always be readily available. But if the child could use a gesture independently, that is something that the child had access to and could use in the classroom. So that is really from where the understanding that we need to have a total communication approach for the child with autism came through. And this is the genesis of this booklet. So it talks about, different, we've given a variety of examples so that therapists and parents don't need to get stuck as to what kind of gestures to use. Some of them are very simple, very basic. Some of them are from the standardized signs that are available, which we found that our children were able to do. We have incorporated those, which we found were difficult. We have suggested our own, which we felt that the child may be able to pick up and move forward in learning. So the booklet talks introducing the gestures, how to make sure that the child has enough practice, introduce it during activities, give repeated practice, give physical prompts where necessary, give visual cueing where required, and slowly fade out one prompt at a time so that the child can independently use the gestures. So these are some of the pages in the booklet. Then we also, like with all other booklets, we have a frequently asked questions. Sometimes parents feel that, oh, I can understand my child. Why do I need to now teach him gestures? I want to focus on speech alone. So there is enough research evidence which says that a total communication approach is best for children. Number two, there is research which shows that gestures have a predictive value in terms of the later verbal output that the child may have. So these are things that we need to share. More importantly, we also need to tell the parent that if you want some kind of independence from your child, if you want to be able to leave your child with, let's say, a grandparent or a trusted caregiver, the child should have some means of communication even when you are not there to understand your child all the time. Sometimes parents get frustrated that the child is taking a long time to attain these gestures. That is where an understanding of the child's motor profile becomes important. How much time that does the child require to learn a gesture, again, will vary from profile to profile. It is something which a therapist may be able to guide the parent with depending on his or her understanding of the child's profile. How many gestures should I start with? We recommend that you introduce a child, expose a child to many gestures, but in terms of teaching, start with 2 or 3 at a time, depending on the child's response, build up further. So there are many such questions that may come into your mind as you start working with the children. So this is something that the FAQ section will address. Lastly, as with all other booklets, we have the parents sharing their experiences. The first one is actually what I shared with you about how a parent felt so relieved that she could leave the child with the grandparent and go out for some shopping or to meet a friend after the child learned to produce gestures, because the child slowly started getting more independent. Then we've also used these gestures with a child, with children who had other developmental disorders. So there are some examples of children with other developmental disorders who have used some of these gestures. Parents have also shared their experience where, after having learned these gestures, the children started showing more interest in babbling and finally moved towards speech as well. This booklet won the Best Communicate Award in 2017. The Comdeal Trust has a tradition of recognizing some of the well-made communicates, and this was recognized as one such communicate. Got the CV Karyappa Award for Best Communicate. In case you want to pick up your own, you may pick up at communicates.com. This is what the order page looks like, and that's a shop down box where you can choose what you want to order. That wraps up what I had to share with you all this afternoon. I hope it has been good learning for you all. I look forward to your questions now.
Thank you, Deepa. We will be taking up questions right now, questions with respect to all of the 4 manuals that were discussed today. So either put your questions in the chat box or unmute yourselves and direct your questions to the speaker. We do have one question that we can start with, Deepa. So Piyush says, sometimes in therapeutics, I get confused as to what therapy technique to use with the child, such as self-talk or parallel talk, expansion or extension. Could you please help on how to overcome this situation in certain cases?
I would say that it is possible to use a combination of these techniques. You don't really have to stick to one. Self-talk is where you are talking about what you are doing as a caregiver or the therapist, what you are doing. So it could be a combination of self-talk and parallel talk. Sometimes, it really depends on the situation. So let's say both of you are sitting together and doing a craft activity. So you may begin with self-talk. Here I am, I picked up some glue, I'm spreading the glue on the paper. Then you could move on to parallel talk where maybe the child is not looking at you at all. Maybe the child is looking at something else. So you address that and say, uh, you know, uncle, or whatever the child, Bhaiya, I am not looking at Bhaiya, I am finding this very interesting. Look at the crow sitting on the window. Oh, looks like you're watching the crow. You don't want to look at what we are doing here. So now if you're following the child's lead, maybe that's something that you will follow through and go through, or you will get the child's attention back to what you are doing. So I don't think you really need to get so bogged down with the terminology here, in as much as focus on how you are interacting with the child. So now if the child at this point just says crow, yeah, that's right, that's a crow sitting on the window. You like crows, don't you? And then you can again continue with your self-talk. So that is how you use a combination of these techniques in your interactions, not getting really bogged down by individual techniques as such, because it is a natural flow of conversation that needs to follow. I can see a comment from Deepa Jalan from Ranchi. Yeah, Deepa, nice to. It'll be nice, Deepa, if you get onto the Communicates website more often, because that gets updated. And Deepa is saying here, I'll just read out to those who don't know, that she knew only about parallel talk and didn't know about the other manuals. So my suggestion would be to get onto the Communicates website every so often and look for updates.
Thank you, Deepa. Any more questions?
Piyush, I hope I've answered your doubt. If there are no questions, I would like one comment from anybody who's used Parallel Talk and anything that you might want to share with us.
Hi, ma'am. Good afternoon, ma'am. This is Colette here with you.
Hello, Colette.
Ma'am, just correct me if I'm wrong, but this is what I'm kind of picturing how it works. But yeah, you are there to guide me, so I have a big doubt here. So with reference to the self-talk and parallel talk, to incorporate it both into a daily schedule, how I'm just imagining, just correct me if I'm wrong. It's like, so you take the first step by selecting one part of the daily routine, ma'am, where you can begin, say, like to narrate what you want for the child and while doing an activity. And then if you try modeling their behavior while describing your actions and then pausing for their response, whether it be verbal or non-verbal, and then continue on with the cycle of communication. Is this how it goes, ma'am?
Yeah, that's right. So yes, I mean I couldn't hear the last part, but what you're saying is that if you are sitting with a visual schedule of what the day is going to be like, you will start talking. See, it's if you can, you will start talking about what the schedule is going to be like, and at the same time be alert for any responses from the child. That's absolutely correct, Colette. So it's almost like imagining that what the child would say or do if the child could at that time. The child is not able to do it, but the child has these thoughts that need to be addressed. So that is where the sensitivity and the empathy level of the therapist or the caregiver becomes important.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
We'll continue with discussions in between, but we take up some questions. Can we use parallel talk at just one level higher than the child's current expressive level? Like if he's at one word level, we can model 2 to 3 word level. Does that create greater chances that he's going to start using it too?
I would say speak much more than that, because the child, if you look at typically developing babies, see, we are trying to provide as natural an environment for language development as possible. So if we look at even a baby who's 6 months of age or 9 months of age, everybody in the child's environment is speaking to the baby quite normally. You don't unnaturally start speaking in just 2 words or 3 words. You speak a whole lot more, isn't it? So that is what I would suggest that we do. We can emphasize certain words that maybe we want to model, or we have these words in our mind for the child's targets, but definitely use much more than that. Like for example, with a non-verbal child, I gave the example of the non-verbal child who didn't go on stage with the parent. So where what the parent did was, she said, I'm feeling nervous, I know you are feeling anxious too, so I'll be there holding your hand all through this walk. And if you're feeling uncomfortable, we will come back, but I want you to try. And it was almost as if by miracle that the child started and walked the ramp with the mother. So here the child is not speaking anything at all, but the parent has said so much.
Thank you, Deepa. Ms. Deepa asks whether there is a site that will help parents make social stories according to the needs of the specific child, the specific needs of each child.
I mean, there are social stories which which can be purchased overseas. I know they are available. There is a site called do as in the numeral 2 do2learn.com, which has free downloads in terms of pictures that can be used. But social stories should ideally be made as per the child's individual requirement, what the child needs. So Vaishali here says that she's been using Parallel Talk. That's nice to hear, Vaishali. Good feedback that you attended a workshop and are using it now. I'm happy to read that.
I request Ms. Vaishali to actually share possible experiences that she's had with us, especially for the other participants, so that we'll have an idea of how it works, how it's worked for children, for families. Ms. Vaishali? Are you able to unmute, Ms. Vaishali?
I think
Go
she,
ahead, Ms. Vaishali.
She's muted. You are muted, Vaishali. You need to unmute yourself.
Yes. Yes. Now I think we'll be able to hear you.
am I audible?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I had attended your workshop in Gurugram, and it has really helped me a lot. And like I have now been using it almost all the children I have. And specifically, I would like to share my experience with one child who was already 7 years old and absolutely non-verbal. And he doesn't fall into even ASD spectrum. And we are still looking for the diagnosis given by the specialist. But he started with this technique, and he has been able to actually convince, tell us what he wants. If he wants anything, he can show us with gestures, and slowly and gradually, by putting him into AAC, he is able to even uh, like type it on the laptop, like I am hungry. And like the way you said that parallel talk, yes, for the family it is very very good, because now the mother feels that yes, like her acceptance to the child is also better. She also feels that yes, I can take care of this child. Else, she was like, I cannot take this can't be my child. I cannot take care of him. So now the mother also, parents are also like happy to be with him, and they are also carrying forward with so many things. So I always I'm thankful for you to bringing me back to parallel talking, which I had forgotten for so many years. Like I was not workshop, somehow it reminded me again, and then I started off. Thank you so much.
That's nice to hear, Vaishali. Thanks for sharing your experience.
Yeah, can I come in a bit now?
Yes, ma'am. Please, ma'am.
I would just like to emphasize that parallel talk doesn't have to be done only during therapy sessions. As was pointed out by both Deepa and the previous speaker, it's a technique that you should share with families so that families can do this all the time around the child. I've known of some wonderful mothers who would use it while cooking, while driving. You know, these are not situations when you are necessarily interacting with the child. You are doing something, the child is around, the mother would say, oh, I'm going to cook bindi, you love bindi, but then Papa doesn't like bindi, so maybe we'll make another dish for him. So it's like a commentary that goes on about what is happening around the child, the people who he is interested in. And that's an excellent form of language stimulation. Another very strong point of empathize with the child. You know, Deepa illustrated this earlier. It can create a very strong bond between families and children, particularly with children with autism spectrum disorders, where, you know, a lot of families feel that they're not connecting to their child, or that there is no emotional bond with the child. When you start using parallel talk, addressing emotional issues, you will see a remarkable change in terms of parent-child interaction. So don't just look at it as a therapy tool that you should be using. Share it with families, illustrate to them how you can use it even when you think your child is totally non-receptive. I've had mothers tell me, but then what's the point of talking to him when he doesn't listen, when he doesn't hear, when he doesn't respond? Increasingly, we're understanding that nonverbal children are not non-listening children. So do help them to use this not just in the therapy session, but across their daily lives. And like the previous speaker pointed out, it brings about remarkable changes in families' bonding.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Deepa, there was one more question posted privately to me, and it says that in your experience, can you also share some examples if parallel talk can be used to reduce behavior issues?
Yeah, definitely. Like the first example that I gave of the father who was going towards the door. So had the father ignored the child totally and not done any parallel talk, the likelihood of the child, either crying loudly or beginning to throw things, throwing a tantrum was very high. The father tuned in to understand that, oh, looks like my son wants to go out with me, addressed that, spoke about it. So on that particular day, maybe the father was in a position to take the child out for a ride. Another day, maybe the father is not in a position. So then again, that is something that the father will tell the child and say, look, I'm in a tearing hurry today. Maybe once mama is done with her work, she will take you out for a ride. So talking like this will help to reduce the anxiety or the anxiousness that the child feels and reduce the possibility of a behavioral problem or a tantrum cropping up.
Okay, so whether parallel talk can be used while the child is showing behavior issues or before the behaviors could
In the
happen.
middle of it, a best thing to do for a tantrum is to ignore it and let the child calm down. At best, you can help the child to calm down. But generally talking when the child is in the middle of a tantrum is not a good idea because the child is not going to register much at that time. Once the child has calmed down, is a good idea at that time to address it.
Sure, thank you, Deepa.
So Bhagyalakshmi, Dinesh has shared the do2learn.com's ID here, as well as she says that she uses a lot of first and then and next. Yes, that is something that is there in our first then cards are there in the visual kit that Nirupama spoke about, I think, two sessions ago. And Chandrima, it's good to read that you are having good experience in terms of parallel talk. To state their emotional state of mind also works wonders. Yes, feelings is what I spoke about during the presentation as well. We need to give them words that let them know that we understand their feelings and words that they can begin to use to, express the feelings that they are experiencing.
There are no further questions.
Any other inputs you'd like to give us, Deepa, from your experiences?
No, not really. But independent activity completion is something that, as a therapist, I learned the importance of it a little down the line. Not too many questions came in about that, so just wanted to say that do pay attention to that skill as well, because living skills as well as functioning in the classroom is concerned. So that is something that one needs to pay attention to that. And that last bit of generalization that needs to happen, we need to pay close attention to and make sure that it happens.
Any other questions or anything that anybody would like to share with us in terms of their experiences, clinical experiences that they've had with with using any of these manuals, or they've heard other professionals use these manuals and their experiences of it? Please do share them with us. Bhagyalakshmi asks, are there any comments on reteaching pain? Is that what you meant?
How to teach the word pain? Is that what you're asking us?
Can you clarify your question, Ms. Bhagyalakshmi, please?
Vocabulary development for pain, is that your question? Yeah. So the concept, how I would go about it is, talk to the parents, talk about labeling the word when the child is actually experiencing the pain, labeling the word when the parent is experiencing it, showing all the actions associated with that word, using as many visuals as possible. If the child is receptive enough to understand short stories, that is again something that you could do. So a combination of all these is how I would introduce the word pain.
Thank you, Deepa. If there are no more questions, I'd like to conclude. So our next webinar, I hope to see you all at the next one.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much for your participation. Thank you, Deepa.